Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate at St. Sabina Parish in Belton, Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know series question. Today's Do You Know question is, do you know the religious significance of the month of February? Now, February is designated as Black History Month, a time in which we learn and grow in awareness of the significant contributions that blacks have made in building up this country, as well as the whole history of horrendous history of slavery. Culturally also, February is focused on two cultural celebrations that we have, typically associated with Valentine's Day, a day for lovers, and Groundhog Day on February the 2nd. But did you know that February celebrates many religious feasts and honors a number of saints? February contains two well-known saints that were removed from the calendar by Pope Paul VI in 1969 for lack of evidence or even historical evidence that they ever existed. And these two saints are Saint Bridget of Kildare, or sometimes known as Saint Bridget of Ireland, and Saint Valentine's. Now, despite the fact that they were removed from the calendar, both saints are still celebrated on their feast days. February the 1st being Saint Bridget of Kildare, and she is one of three national patron saints of Ireland, along with St. Patrick and St. Columba. Her feast day on February the 1st is celebrated in the Irish Catholic calendar, and it is a national holiday in Ireland that celebrates the day also as the beginning of spring. St. Valentine's, of course, removed from the calendar, yes, but the day is still continually celebrated culturally as Valentine's Day, a day for lovers in which, all sorts of money is spent on flowers, cards, chocolate, and so on. February the 2nd is culturally known as Groundhog Day, a custom that was brought to the United States by U.S. immigrants, German immigrants to the United States. However, February the 2nd has many religious themes associated with it. First of all, February the 2nd is exactly 40 days after Christmas. And in many Latin American countries and in Mexico and so on, the February the 2nd is celebrated as the closure to the Christmas season with great celebrations and holiday meals and so on. February the 2nd is also 40 days after the birth of Jesus, in which he was presented in the temple by his parents. Jewish custom and law that the first male child would have to be presented to God in the temple. And in the process of doing this, and presented him in the temple, they ran into two elderly Jews who were religious people in the temple, Simeon and Anna. And Simeon and Anna both recognized Jesus as the long-awaited Jewish Messiah, with Simeon calling him the light to the Gentiles. So as a result of this, the church took up that theme of a light to the Gentiles by blessing candles on February the 2nd, candles that would be used in processions during that day and throughout the entire year for religious ceremonies. And so it is still known to this very day as Candlemas Day, the day on which Mass was celebrated and candles were blessed. February the 3rd, of course, is the feast of St. Blaise. St. Blaise, who's the patron saint of any ailments of the throat. Why? Because on his way to being martyred, he miraculously removed a fishbone for a child's throat who was choking. And so since that time, he's become known as the patron saint of any ailments of the throat. And to this day, there's a special blessing on February the 3rd in honoring St. Blaise with cross candles, petitioning him for help with God for any ailments of the throat and the entire body. On February the 8th, we honor the feast of Saint Josephine Bakhita. who was a young woman in a Sudan village, grew up in a wonderful family, but very early in her life she was abducted, human trafficked actually, and sold into slavery and abuse of slavery over many years till she was able to regain her freedom and moved with a family to Italy, where she was converted to Catholicism, became a religious sister, led a holy life, and dedicated herself to the relief of slavery and so on. And in her honor, on this feast day, in her honor, the day is called the International Day of Prayer and Awareness Against Human Trafficking, something that is still horrendous to this very day, with millions of people being caught up in human trafficking. On February the 10th, we celebrate the feast of Saint Scholastica, who is the twin sister of Saint Benedict, both of whom began the religious orders of the Benedictine, both men and women. On February the 11th, we celebrate the feast of Our Lady of Lourdes, Our Lady appearing to Bernadette Soubirous in the village of Lourdes in France. On February February is also known as the honored, as a matter of fact, having the feast days of two well-known doctors of the church. These doctors of the church are people who have made significant religious, theological, intellectual contribution to the church over the centuries. And these two that we celebrate during February are St. Peter Damian, celebrated on February the 21st. He roughly existed around the year 1072, and St. Gregory Narek on February the 27th, who died roughly about the year 1003 and so on. February the 14th, as we all know, celebrates culturally the St. Valentine's Day, but really the calendar has this as being the feast day of St. Cyril and Methodius, which were two brothers who were apostles to the Slavs. As a matter of fact, their title to this very day is Apostle to the Slavs, where the Czechs, the Slovaks, and the Croatians all venerate him to this very day, venerate both of them to this very day as apostles in bringing the Christian message to Slovenia. February the 23rd is the feast of St. Polycarp, an early bishop and martyr who died in the year 155, who was the bishop of Smyrna in Asia Minor. So all these are elements that exist, religious elements that exist during the month of February. Now, Ireland considered February the 1st as the beginning of spring, a time of renewal and recommitment and a new life. And so as you go through the month of February, it would be good to renew your own spirituality and your own devotion to your faith by learning more about the lives of these saints in these particular feasts and making them part of your devotion, your spirituality. So I hope this has helped to explain just a bit of what the religious significance of the month of February is all about, and I hope you'll enter into February celebrating many of these feasts and events. Thank you very much.